What's happening, people? Welcome to episode 4 of whatever the hell this will be called in the end. So this next question is, how would I like it to happen next time? Which in essence means whatever situation you were in that didn't go the way you wanted it to go. And this is kind of leading on from the previous episode. What learning have you been able to take so that you're going to implement, and what's going to be different about the next time you do that thing? Whether it's piece of work, whether it's, how you try and ask someone out on a date, or, just whatever the situation might be. How do I ask my boss for that raise, or et cetera, et cetera. So I think if everyone just kind of answers that directly, and then we'll open it up to more discussion based on whatever everyone says. So whoever wants to go first, feel free. So for example, how would I like it to happen next time? So let's say, so for example, I think I could have, because I've ended up doing youth and community work and etc. for several years now, but I think I could have entered that realm earlier in life, because it's something I do enjoy doing. It's kind of what I've got the most positivity from, and etc. So I think I could have entered that earlier in my life if I'd been a bit more, a bit more organized as a young person, a bit more attentive, to kind of what direction I genuinely wanted to go in life. Put a bit more time and effort into kind of thinking that, trying to maybe have a plan for my life, maybe a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan and a 15-year plan, and and trying to kind of, so I would say the jobs I've ended up doing in the last few years, I would have entered that career earlier. I think that's how I would like it to happen next time.
I the way I would concur with that is that when I look at any situation that I wasn't happy with the outcome of, I would say the problem was almost always that I wasn't clear enough about expressing what I actually wanted. My brain knew what I wanted, and then you translate into words. Your brain thinks about what words do I say to express what I wanted. And usually, if the other person doesn't hear what you want, you don't get it. Of course, the fear is in everyone that you say exactly what you want and they say no, but that doesn't make any difference whether you get it or not, really, because they're always going to say no. So it's always like it's on me that I didn't say very clearly, politely, respectfully, but assertively what I wanted in a very clear language. And I feel like I don't know, just from speaking to people from different countries, I feel like we're worse at that. We dilly-dally. We stop things, we dilute things. Yeah,
like a British mentality.
Yeah, I can't speak for Britain, but for my community.
Yeah.
For people I hang out with, we all we take the easy route. We're like, could possibly but like if you look at some of the best people I've known from Europe, the reason they're in London is they're really good, and they'll say, no, you are wrong, I want this, and then you got to come back, and it's very easy to have a conversation. But you get two people like me speaking to each other, it's very hard to understand like what everyone wants, and everyone's worried about each other's feelings, and then like no one gets what they want. It's a very bad outcome.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think sometimes you don't know what you want though, until you go through a couple of episodes and then you figure out, and you just do whatever. Some people do a lot of weird shit, but then we think they're doing something special, and then a couple of years later you realise what they was doing weren't that special. But we thought it was at the time.
So have you got an example of something in your life where you would change? Like, what would you have changed to the outcome?
I don't regret.
I have no regrets.
I agree with him. Yeah, I agree with you with that.
It is what it is.
But it's not necessarily about having a regret. Like, if I reflect on a situation, I think, maybe next time, if that was to happen again, I'll try this approach, or I'll do this. I don't think that's necessarily having a regret. That's learning from the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I don't know. I just kind of feel like, I don't know where, something I feel might have been good, but I don't know where that could have took me. So there was a few little things, like I could have woke up at a certain point in time and, if I woke up early enough, I might have got there.
Yeah.
But nothing really. I'm quite cool with it.
What's the definition of insanity? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, exact same thing again and again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
that's
you've
when you're
got
not
to change.
learning from any experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you on that.
I think the cat agrees. I think he's just learning something now, mate.
The thing for me on that, can I say that it wasn't the sound; it was Willow's face immediately afterwards. It's like a horror movie.
All right, Dylan, John, do you want to chime in?
Summertime, the cats are fine.
I'd say following on from last episode where I said like a lot of the bosses I've worked under over the past 3 years, I realised they didn't fully know everything, and like I was worried to make mistakes. Like the people above me knew everything, and if I made a mistake, I'd be like inferior. Whereas, and like they were perfect. But in terms of my football coaching, if in future, I'm glad the experiences I had, I worked with someone who's more experienced than me, so I could learn off them. But in future, I'd definitely be more assertive to say what I wanted to do with the team and like how I wanted to train them differently and stuff like that, because I felt like because of that lack of experience, I couldn't chime up and say what I wanted differently.
Okay.
But that wasn't necessarily right. Just because someone's more experienced than you doesn't mean they're right 100% of the time. And that's personally what I'd take from my past experience.
What about you?
My one's quite similar to Vernon's, whereas I had a scenario where I had a choice, and either choice would have been good for me. But because I had so much choice, I didn't know what to do, and I literally, like Vernon said, I dillied and dallied. I just kept seeing the 2 different outcomes, and I stretched this out for a long time and not wishing to commit to a choice. And eventually I did make a choice, but I didn't follow it through with any conviction. And that basically meant it was doomed. It was a doomed choice because there was nothing behind it. And in the end I realised, well, either choice would have been good, but it needed to be followed through with a commitment. So for me, it's a big thing. That's like probably the biggest lesson I've ever learned in life. And if that, I know now, if this sort of thing comes around again, it doesn't really matter what choice you make, but it does matter that once you make a choice, you do have to commit to it, or what you want to come from it won't happen. So for me, it's probably the biggest eye opener I've ever had in my life. And usually I can't talk about things very clearly. I'm an R. Like how you were talking, Willow. I feel like maybe either you don't want to talk about it or you haven't quite experienced that, because you're quite happy that to go with the flow at the moment. But when you truly do something and you think, fuck, no, that definitely was not a great decision, and it could have been.
Yeah. But
Then-
I'd be here all fucking day. I'd be here all day if I was to sit there. Okay, it was 2005, yeah.
But I think that can be applied to pretty much everyone on the planet, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're honest with each other.
Yeah. But
you know?
Hearing you lot talk about it, I relate to what you're saying, you saying as well. I can relate to everything all you lot are saying, but I'm just trying to jump over all of it and say, well, things
I
happen.
was always the same.
how they
I
happen,
was
yeah.
always so I remember when Holly, my sister, shouldn't drop names, but was
Well, we don't know who.
was like
Which Holly?
Your other sister.
my other sister.
Yeah.
I got offered basically to start a career in something I had worked through in uni. And I turned it down because they called me the very day I was planning to ask a girl out and get with, and I prioritised that. And apparently that was the worst move I could make. But looking back, that was not the worst move I could make. That put me on a whole path of life that made me very happy
Exactly.
for 10, 15 years.
Exactly.
But I had conviction. I decided, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do this.
You made a
And
choice.
this can come back round. And that's called going with the flow, but making the choice. But when you make a choice with that true conviction, then you won't get what you want. So it's not about the choice. It's about
So do you think
through.
making a choice and having that commitment and that substance behind that choice of this is what I want in this moment, and I'm going to work on maintaining that. That can increase your happiness for that experience.
Definitely, because it will turn into something, and it either won't work or it will. But you've done everything you can. What you don't want is to make that choice, not follow it through, make yourself very unhappy, so you're regretting the choice you didn't make, and you're regretting what you've done. And you're on the path to unhappiness. And then, just from that, I can tell now, looking around, there is so much of that going on in the world, in all areas, and it's something to think about. And it's good to fall hard, I guess, if you want to learn that.
Yeah, I agree with that, because what was the original question? How
would I like it to happen next time?
Yeah, so if any decision you make in life, like there's so many hard decisions, but once you've made it, if you don't follow through on it, and then it fails or it goes wrong, then it's gone wrong, and you also don't know if you've made the wrong decision. Whereas if you've made the choice and you've tried as much as you can to make it the right choice, and it just happened to be the wrong choice, then there's nothing you can do. And at least you can choose a different path next time.
Yeah.
Like like in the question says, but
I feel like you saying that has made me realise I feel like I've played every card I've had. Like, I might not have played them brilliantly, right? Like a poker expert, like champion. But I played the fucking card. I didn't go, no, I'll just put that aside, never actually have a fucking bet on the table. Like, I've definitely played my cards. And then you go, you could have played it in a slightly different way. That's a different question. But if you never played the card at all, that's what we're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Won't risk anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think part of that then is like, so how would I like it to happen next time? Maybe sometimes I need to take more of a risk next time. Sometimes we try and play it too safe.
More conviction in my
True.
And kind of realizing that, you know what, most successful people, they had to take some risk at some point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And life is kind of it's filled with that of like, if you're not willing to get yourself out of your comfort zone and take those risks, then will you truly achieve your full potential of happiness?
So does everyone here feel like they've done that? Not like
Definitely not every time. There's times, definitely.
Has everyone got something that they
I
feel
definitely
that they
feel
left?
I've done it in. So that was what I gave earlier was an example where it didn't go right, and that was in. Actually, I'm not gonna say the area it was in, but another area where I've gone the other way.
Where you didn't
Korea, where I've passed up opportunities in Korea because I've always seen another option, which is the risky option. But the more I believed in that one, so even now I haven't quite reached it, but I'm still in that game. I'm still battling for that. And the more you believe in it, because if you go with a risk, you're much more likely to run into problems. So you need to go into that risk with conviction, because you're likely to have a very hard road. So the more you believe in it, the more likely you are. And like they say, he who succeeds is the person who's able to go one more time than their biggest failure. So conviction is the key word I take from this each time. If you really believed in it, then you're going to be able to go through all these obstacles. And if you can't, you're going to know for certain. You're going to know you gave everything you had. And I always think of fighters who get very close to the belt. That's so hard to do, and you can't always get the belt. But they've gone as far as they could.
Because not everyone can get to the belt. But
I've seen other things where people they've had all that talent, and they think they've made their decision because they're like, well, I've got all this ability, and then they've run into one or two stumbling blocks too much, and it's too much for them, and they've pulled out then, and they've gone on a different tangent, and they're not happy. And they were very close. They just had to go over that last obstacle.
Keep pushing,
And I think a part of that is you have to admire yourself when you go that far. Like if you were that fighter, for example, that got that far but couldn't get the belt, and you trained however hard you did, and you weren't in that moment good enough or whatever. Like that happens to everybody. But you need to put in that effort and realize you might not have succeeded in getting it, but you still succeeded. You trained as hard as you could, and you did the best that you could.
And I think you have to
that's the thing. It's like, what's the level? What is the actual rating? system? Is it the system of like what you're in, or is it just like your own thing?
It should be. It's your own system, obviously,
Yeah.
because it's your perception of the world.
Yeah.
But I remember like Van Damme saying, I don't listen to much of what Van Damme says. When he
Well,
said-
it can be
when
legendary.
I just had one of his like. I was actually at a Stallone speech on just playing while I was doing a workout, and then it cut to a Van Damme one. I was about to press stop. I was like, I can't even understand what he's saying. But then he was like, they were like, after this, you had a really bad film career, and there's one bad film after next. And he was like, I mean, how low did you feel? He said, I didn't feel low at all. I enjoyed the journey into sadness. I was like,
The Valley of Sadness.
wow, okay. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I need to like get more out of this feeling that I'm having now, and like ride with this. It's still a journey. It's sadness, but there's a lot of learning to be done here.
I think that's an important factor. The fact that, because this podcast thing is focused around happiness and trying to increase your happiness, but I think it's important to remember that we all there is a range of emotions and they exist for a reason. So it's not just about trying to be happy or positive 24/7 and not acknowledging those other emotions. We have to acknowledge them, we have to embrace them, we have to kind of go through them to be able to come out on the other side. And I think it was mentioned earlier about knowing the sadness so that you can enjoy the happiness more. You know what I mean? So let me just clarify something I said, which was because the youth and community work, etc., which I thoroughly enjoy, and that's been a great journey. But ultimately, what I truly want to be doing in my life is being creative. I've got a background in performing arts and stuff like that, and that's what I would like my career to be. That's what I would ultimately like to be earning at least most of my income from, if not all my income. So I think I would, in terms of how would I like it to happen next time, I think from an earlier age I would push myself a bit more. I had insecurities, I had lots of instability and stuff like that growing up and etc. But I think I would have pushed through that more to pursue that more. So I mean, we've ended up, like, me and Vernon do stand-up comedy and things like that, so we've ended up pursuing that aspect of our personalities and trying to expand on that. But in terms of, I would definitely push myself from an earlier age. I think that's the key factor. But also, we do have to bear in mind, you don't always know what the hell you want to do anyway from an early age. You know what I mean?
The shocking revelation for me about stand-up comedy was the hardest thing wasn't going on stage and not being funny. That was easy. That was so easy to go on stage and not being funny. The hardest thing was to go on a 45-minute journey there and wait for another 45 minutes. And
Before you,
being unfunny was a privilege. That was like the best. I mean, being funny is
build
better.
up to it.
Being but doing that 45 minutes plus 45
So much
minutes.
more stressful.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's 2.5 hours of your life.
Yeah, that's.
Are you talking about specifically the first time you went on stage, or
No,
is that kind of every time?
Every
Because
time.
you're waiting.
Yeah.
Is it because you're waiting to find out whether you're funny rather than like you actually
That's part of it.
experiencing it?
But
Is it more like I'm an imposter? Like this isn't me. To give
that
my time to
too,
this.
both things. But the fact I can be asked
Yeah.
to ask that question of myself,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Like, that's not a question that needs to be asked. Like, I go to fucking
You don't
Ealing.
need to do it.
Yeah, I go to Ealing and have a great time. Whether I'm funny or not, it's a great fucking time. And it does, maybe coming back, it was harder the first time. But every time I'm like, why am I doing this? This is madness. Like,
You're enjoying the journey.
yeah.
Not sadness, but trouble.
Yeah.
And not necessarily
Whoa.
the physical journey,
Yeah.
but like,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
I
whole-
wish I'd
the
known that. I
metaphorical
wish I'd learned that bit earlier. That, like,
That's an important
You're
part.
the investment is long and the payoff is small.
Because you're,
But
That's
you
the
keep
point.
doing it and it gets massive.
you're putting yourself at scrutiny you don't need to be at.
So
All
it's
of
like,
it.
yeah, it's like you're
It could
putting
have been
yourself
playing the
through.
violin.
You're
And
testing yourself.
you
innit? It's-
performing is
yeah.
only a part of it. It's actually
Yeah.
that
You're-
journey and stuff
that's the
is all
easiest
part,
part.
of the building block.
It's your
They
battle
will
with
definitely
yourself.
call your
innit?
name and you will definitely have 5 minutes.
You're-
And there will definitely be people not funny as you and there will definitely be people funnier than you. Like, that shit is like the rules of the game. Until you level up.
That's
But the hard bit is like those old like Spectrum games where you have to put the tape in and it plays the game for
Might
like
chew it up,
15 minutes,
or
yeah.
might chew up the tape.
Yeah, or like it's not like plug and play. That's like
Yeah.
you like wind that shit
Wind
up.
that shit up and it might freeze up. Or... I think that's the point though. I hate waiting. I hate all that kind. I've done it though. The best ever times on stage is when I just jumped up on the stage, kung fu, candid. I had the whole crowd eating at my palm, man. I had the whole crowd. McGregor said that one. I had them eating at my palm. Oh man, that's what I was like. But it was improvised.
But it was in the moment.
It was in the moment.
Yeah.
If I had to wait and do what he was doing, I probably wouldn't have gone up there. But because it was just in the moment, I was in the crowd, and then I saw a maestro on stage, and then I took the mic off him, and then I just.
I think those are the moments we like as humans. Everybody lives for as well. Because it doesn't matter whether it's comedy, music, like sport, whatever it is. I feel like everyone's had that moment. Like I remember at university, like it was the university team were very like cliquey, and it was like almost you got in because you were friends rather than based on talent. And then I remember playing like a what's it called, like a Intermatch, which is like you make teams within your university to play against each other, like 5-a-side teams. And it doesn't have to. It's not against our university. You're playing against possibly people in the football team for the uni you're representing. Yeah. And I remember playing against like someone in my uni who was like he was like almost a semi-pro player or almost a professional player, like really like close to getting scouted. And like he was against me, and I tackled him and then nutmegged him, and everybody was watching on the side. Everyone was watching, and you just hear. Oh! I don't even know who this guy is, but he nutmegged Trey, and then you hear that, and you're just like, fucking hell, I'm the shit.
Exactly, man.
And that's what we all live for. We all live for just like the chance to prove ourselves, not even proving ourselves, but the chance to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to step up in them little moments, innit? Yeah, man.
So I think there's a thing about.
That's how I felt when I took place in the Pimlico strip dance.
I was there!
I knew I was the dark horse, man. Everyone's like, this guy's not even leaving.
I tell you what,
whatever happens today, he comes back.
I have never before or since.
You might want to clarify what that situation is for the audience.
Say, I have never before or since seen so many excited 17-year-old girls.
Just briefly, as I mentioned, most of us here, or has been mentioned, most of us here went to school together, or at least the same school. And in sixth form, a couple of us decided, well, a group of us decided we were leaving, and we decided to do, I think was the Full Monty had inspired us, wasn't it?
You were leaving, John.
A film called The Full Monty inspired us. We decided as young 16-year-old boys, I was going to say men, but let's keep it real. Despite how hairy our face or chest might have been, but so we decided to do a parody of the Full Monty for the lovely ladies in sixth form, and one of our members kind of just got nervous anyway, like just not too long before going on stage.
Was that the name of the person
and
you just mentioned?
Oh, did he say his name?
No.
No. Whatever the name was, anyway. Whoever that was, John decided he was not initially going to be part of it. This was all just the performing arts lot, I think, that was going to do it. And then John was, what were you doing at the time? You were doing A-levels, and what subject
I had
you
come to watch the rehearsals and thought, this looks fun. But I did not expect to be going on stage, although I was secretly beginning to get a taste for it.
But John was not of the performing arts crew in the same way, so a lot of the audience members would not have expected him at all. So I can't even remember how, we had a little sort of choreography type thing and and then just basically out of nowhere comes the White Wolf, aka the Shark. aka Shy FX before Shy
Just
FX was
jumped out of the
even
screen,
known
man.
about. And this guy just comes in and starts doing these like martial arts,
Yes.
stroke, stripper dance
They
moves.
press R2 and John jumps onto the screen and starts fucking
Willow, women fainting everywhere.
Left, right, and centre.
I thought it was like, you know, worst case scenario, all the performing arts girls turn up. They barely know me. But when I turned up, I was like, fuck. Media studies there. All the girls I've got a crush on.
Everyone was
Basically,
there.
all the sixth form was there.
Like,
I was one of the audience. It was
80%.
the entire sixth form.
But then, do you know what happened afterwards? There was
So, hold on, just bear in mind. So, like us who had planned this were leaving. John was not. So anyway, carry on.
yes, and I was
So
fully
you're
aware of
sticking
that.
around, enjoying
I was
that.
like, whatever happens, I come back tomorrow. I'm not leaving my leg.
Shaking the tree, see what fruits fall out. Man. Yeah,
But I do remember like walking afterwards, because even at the time I was like, I'm pretty sure they were going mental, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there was a parents' evening at the same time, and I remember walking past people and just hearing, yeah, that's the guy to their mums. That's the guy who stripped for me, and he's not even leaving. And I was with the guy who had pulled out, and I just saw him like, you could just see it on his face, like I should have done it.
He pulled out.
Yeah, he pulled out.
Yeah, that's why John
And
did
he's
it.
the guy who's thinking.
So for
"How
that
would
guy,
I like to
if
do
I
it?"
ask him how would I like it to happen next time, we know what he's gonna say. I think.
But yeah, those moments,
moments,
man, when
yeah.
they pay off, you feel very good.
You might as well jump in.
But it's about taking that risk.
No, but even when they don't pay off, you feel good because you've
Yeah.
done it to
Yeah.
know that it
Yeah,
didn't pay
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
That's true.
But when you
That
don't,
is true.
you're always like, shit.
How would it have gone?
That's what the
Unless
comedy.
you-
That's what the comedy circuit
Exactly.
is about, isn't it?
Same
Like
thing.
learning.
My favourite bit is the 45-minute tube journey now there. It's
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Like, yeah, I'm doing
That's
this.
You're like,
But you've gone past a certain stage
no,
You gotta forget.
where
You forget about
you
coming back.
develop
You
that.
forget about coming
Like you
back.
said, it's about if I'm
Gattaca.
going through that.
You forget about the
Gattaca,
Swiss
You
back.
go through a certain
Didn't even
process, and then you get to the next step. Then you go through another
Yeah.
process, then you get to the next
Yeah.
step.
you love the swim back though, because it's
Yeah.
a nice feeling when you come back.
'Cause you're
Even if you
alive.
fuck
Vernon
up, you're
can't
just
swim
like,
back.
yeah.
Vernon leaves it all on the stage. You're carrying home.
I'll tell you what it means. Coming back after a good gig is a lot harder than coming back after a bad
He's like
gig
back
because
here, he's laying
yeah,
there.
a lot harder. Because you
Steam
come back
coming
from a bad gig, right? You're like, oh, I expected it to be bad, and I've only done like 40 gigs or whatever. It's like,
Pack my bag for work.
yeah, it's fine. Pack my bag, go to sleep. And I was like, you still have that sort of I'm knackered and maybe a little bit down, but that's not even a big thing. But if you come back after smashing it, which I say happened, like smashing it for me 1 in 5 times out of 40 gigs, that's like 6 or 7 maybe. And then you come back and you're so G'd up, man. I'm mad at that.
Your energy.
You're so G'd
I am
up,
not
man.
trying to work it out.
Yeah,
Don't
but
worry.
I'm so G'd up. You can't sleep. It's Wednesday night. You've come back from eating. It's 12 o'clock. You come back home and you're like, fucking hell, I feel like a fucking superstar.
Yeah, you're up,
celebrity.
you're up, innit?
But
You're
then
like,
what do
yeah.
you do with that? So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
because
But-
you're shocked.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you want to see Vernon perform, go to Ealing Comedy
Yeah, Ealing-
because he's
Ealing
mentioned that
Comedy,
about
yeah,
10
yeah,
times.
You're eating comedy.
Don't you think all this, just hearing that now, it just sounds so daunting, like going from this situation that we're in with this lockdown.
Yeah.
Having a day of work and then going to a comedy.
Madness. Who would do that?
do
Well, maybe that's your how would I like to do it next. That's your okay. So if I do smash a comedy thing, maybe rather than going to sleep, maybe I enjoy the night or whatever. It is.
Yeah, and go into work knackered.
Yeah,
No, but at the same time,
truthfully,
yes.
because
I agree
like,
with what you're
Take it a
saying.
bit more professionally.
because like maybe you deserve to enjoy it rather than have the bad ones are the ones where I get to go to sleep.
Yeah. It's funny. There's that place that we did near Finsbury Park, Seven Sisters.
Yes. I can't remember the
Like
name of the night.
I've always
but-
smashed that place out, but the best thing was after this got that. Actually, it's about happiness, but it's about having a good gig. But because it's the only Friday night gig I do, we chilled out afterwards. It was me, you, and then we had a spliff with some random guy, and then the other time I went, there was an after party, and that does help reward. But again, it's not about that. For me, it's the journey there. It's the boring shit getting there.
No, but I think sometimes you do have to enjoy the rewards that comes from that achieving that whatever you wanted to achieve as well. You know.
But if you
do
take
have
that too far, you go
No,
celebrity crazy.
that's where the ego comes in, and you get a warped sense of self and all that stuff. But you definitely have to enjoy the success, and like I said, embrace the negative stuff as well. Definitely. All right, so let's draw it to a close at that point. Thank you for tuning in, peoples, to whatever the hell this will be called in the end. Peace.